Hey, good evening. Welcome to A Foreigner in the Philippines. Beth and I went out this evening, and part of the end of the evening was to go down and have a cheap old meal at Jollibee. Jollibee is actually much more popular here than is McDonald's, which is amazing. I actually found when I was traveling in China that Kentucky Fried Chicken was more popular than McDonald's, and at the time I remember thinking perhaps some of that is the fact that the primary colours, the very bright colours of red and white that are used by McDonald's, they are very, very common traditional colours in China, so maybe that was something to do with it, that the paintwork was not quite as strong or striking as it is here. So anyway, so we went and we finished our little evening off at Jollibee, and while we were in Jollibee, a young lady came up and spoke to us that was a subscriber, and it turned out that she was married to a foreigner. Well, you'll see the results of that video, because of course Beth immediately pulled out the camera and did a little mini interview of our new friend and subscriber May. And May, it turns out, lives in Pennsylvania, and she is married to an American. And here's the interesting thing, was her observations of what it was like to live in America. And it was interesting, I suppose I would find it interesting, because she was echoing some of the things that I've said, that Filipinos will miss the most when they go to live in America or in another foreign country. Now, inbuilt, it seems, into the psyche of every Filipino that you meet is this idea that America or any other foreign country, a modern first world country, is so much better than the Philippines and will be like a paradise. Well, we had that meeting with May, and the meeting with Adrian, who is another, he is an expat. This May was a Filipina, and they both were of the same opinion. And our friend Adrian said that he was thinking that if he could find a place in the Philippines where he could enjoy 3 or 4 months of a different kind of life to his life in America. And when we asked May, given the choice between the two, given the choice between the two places to live, which would you choose? And she said the Philippines. Now, her reasons were very much inbuilt into the way that the psychological makeup of the average Filipino is, focused in family and friends. And she made the same observation that I made when I lived in for the last 2 years that I was in the States. I was in Florida, and I lived in a nice house in a nice subdivision, what they would call a subdivision here. It was in the Fort Myers area, and everything was beautifully kept. There was a housing association, 2, possibly 3 swimming pools, and I stayed there, and in 2 years I only knew the names of the neighbours in 2 houses. Now, that's not to say that people were unfriendly. They just never got to connect. And May made the same observation. She said, there's no neighbours. She said, in the Philippines, there's always lots of neighbours. You get to go out and talk to people. Now, I have to admit that in the case of Filipinos, after you've been here a few years and seen the way that Filipinos act to each other, whenever Beth and I have gone out and we've met a new couple, within minutes, it seems to me, looking from the outside in, it seems to me that are you sure you weren't already sisters with this girl? And I'm sure that, you know, that the other guy was thinking the same thing, because the friendliness, the bonding just seems to be immediate. And when we were in Jollibee, and I went out and did the ordering, and I'd made my order, and I'm standing there and I'm watching the staff of the Jollibee interact with each other. Now, I'm sure that in America, with this emphasis on what can I say, on sexual harassment, much of what I saw between these male and female boys and girls who were there working behind the bar and serving, passing and touching in a familiar way, a hand on the shoulder. If another girl came up to help the girl that was taking my order, they would be most familiar and friendly, like they were sisters. And clearly, everybody can't be everybody's sister. So it's a lot different. And I said to Adrian today that I'd made this comment once before when we went to Hong Kong, and Hong Kong has a lot of Filipino overseas Filipino workers, OFWs. It has a lot of OFWs. Now they all gather in this certain area at the weekends, and they hang out together, and you see that there's this, they form a huge community, a community within a community. And I'm sure that any one of them would be welcome with almost any other one of the groups that they form. You can see that they form sometimes little groups of, say, 4 or 5, and then other times there'd be maybe 10 in the group, but they would be most friendly. And I passed the tongue-in-cheek warning to anyone who was intending to stop by the Philippines on their way to their real vacation in Hong Kong. And I said, best go to Hong Kong first, because if you go to the Philippines first, the Philippine people will completely ruin you for what you think of as friendly people. When you go to Hong Kong, this is purely in my and Beth's opinion, was that compared to the Philippines, the people are so incredibly friendly in the Philippines. So when you go to Hong Kong, you might find that it seems a little cold by comparison. So the saying that it's more fun in the Philippines, I think, is true. My own particular saying is that there's more smiles per mile in the Philippines. The people are genuinely more friendly. It just seems to be a totally natural thing for them to do. And every day that I go out and I wander around, people smiling at me and being friendly. If I need any help, I can ask. I could stop anybody in the street and ask them. And here's the thing, I could stop any woman and say, excuse me, can you tell me this or that, and ask a question, and she would not immediately do this or well, what does this man want? It just seems so different. Well, that's all from me. It's a short video for a change. Thanks for looking in. Sorry that the comments are still not back. Can't last forever, but meantime you can always share, and that would be a huge help. Plus, if you were to let the ads run, that would also be a help too, because that's how we make our bread and butter. Thanks for looking in. Bye for now.